Hello, and welcome to the WWIA podcast. We're honored to have you join us in our mission to bring honor, connection, and healing to America's combat-wounded Purple Heart heroes. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, we welcome you. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. Please be sure to tell others about our podcast and leave us a review if you're enjoying what you're hearing. We've got another outstanding episode in store for you today, as WWIA Founder and CEO John McDaniel proudly welcomes an American hero and friend of the foundation to the podcast. Today, we're joined by Purple Heart recipient and WWIA guide, Mr. Eddie Hoffmann. Eddie grew up outside of Tampa, Florida, and enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in early 2001 as an 0311. Eddie was assigned to Third Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, and deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, 2004, and 2005 and 06. During his final deployment, Eddie was injured by an improvised explosive device and subsequently awarded the Purple Heart Medal for his wounds. Eddie would finish his 8.5-year career with Weapons and Field Training Platoon at Recruit Training Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina, before being medically retired in February 2010. Shortly after retirement, Eddie enrolled at the University of Tampa and returned to his hometown with his wife Molly. After graduating in 2013, Eddie began working in various roles in mental health as a peer specialist in the VA and continues in this role today. Eddie is an avid deer and turkey hunter and enjoys surf fishing in the Gulf of Mexico. He also has a daughter and a son who accompany him on outdoor adventures whenever possible. We look forward to sharing Eddie's story with you and allowing you to get to know him better. So without further delay, let's join the conversation with John and Eddie right now.
Hi, I'm John McDaniel, founder and CEO of the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation, and this is our podcast, Honor, Connect, Heal. So today, what is this? This is September of 2025, and I have a special guest with me today in my office in Apollo Beach, Florida. I have Eddie Hoffmann with me, and Eddie is a Marine and a great American. He's one of our guides. He's a Purple Heart recipient. He's been helping our heroes for several years now, and he's got a great story to tell. Welcome to the program, Eddie.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again. So I was telling him in the pre-show, I was like, Eddie, I kind of have to pretend like I don't know you that well so that the audience, he's like, I get it. So here we are, man. I heard the commandant of the Marine Corps, and I don't know his current name, and probably neither do you. You wouldn't have a good reason to because you're no longer on active duty. But I heard the commandant, or read maybe the commandant say, the current commandant, that, we used to refer to Marines as, former Marine. I'm a former Marine. Correct. Like I might be a former soldier. Well, the commandant came out and said, BS to that. If you were a Marine, you're always a Marine. So I introduced you as a Marine. I imagine you felt that way anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's something like I'll introduce myself sometimes as a former Marine just because people don't understand that. But, but yeah, I think amongst Marines, that's kind of how we feel, that we're always, right, part of the tribe, if you will.
That's right, the brotherhood. Mm-hmm. If Eddie's sporting a really fancy beard, it's down towards the middle of his chest, and it looks like something out of Jeremiah Johnson, like Hatchet Jack might wear. But that might be a giveaway that you're no longer wearing a uniform. But you look svelte. You're in good shape.
Thank you.
So you're a Purple Heart recipient?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you're a guide for us. So let's talk a little bit about just cranking off the program here. Let's get right into it. Tell us about your experience in the Marine Corps. Who'd you serve with, and then just build up to, hit the wave tops of that, and then let's talk about combat operations. If you don't mind, I know you got a great story, and we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the area here, out in Brandon, Florida, Valrico, Florida, so not too far from here. Mm-hmm. And it was graduated in 99 from Brandon High School, and basically wasn't doing much. I was working for a local electric company as an apprentice, and they were sending me to school. And this is all prior to, September 11th, 2001. And I remember I was sleeping on the floor, basically, of one of my friend's houses because I'd gotten bumped out of my house, basically. And he was joining the Marine Corps, and I'd never even thought of joining the military. I had some family that had been in the military, but he was like, hey, if you join with me, we can go on a buddy program. I'm like, what is that? So he took me down to the recruiter, and you know how they're pretty good salesmen. So he was telling me about, oh yeah, we can get you, you'll at least go through boot camp together. And I guess my ASVAB score was high enough that he wanted me to do something other than infantry or whatever. But my buddy was going security forces. So he had to go, basically I was infantry. He had to go through school of infantry and all that. And I was like, well, I want to go with him all the way through. And he's like, well, you could do something else. And let's just say
a second here. Yeah. Security forces, is that like the Marine Corps police department?
So it's like they guard the embassies. They right. They got the fast teams. So that's the Marine Corps security force. So you go through boot camp, school of infantry, and then you go through the school security forces school or whatever. So I was figuring at least we'd be together for like 6 months. And if I had to go in, why not go in with a buddy or something? But so the recruiter wasn't very happy. Let's just say I ended up having to get a waiver anyway and having to go infantry. He's like, now you have to go infantry. I'm like, well, that's what I wanted anyway. So long story short, with that, it basically, that's how I ended up joining as an infantryman in the Marine Corps. August of 2001. So I'm sleeping on his floor. I hadn't even told my parents yet. And then I'm waking up one day, September 11th, and there's planes flying in the buildings in New York City. And my first thought was like, oh, what did I do? I just enlisted, going infantry. I haven't told my parents, so I had to tell them. And
so you're enlisted at the time 911 kicks off. But you haven't gone to boot camp. You haven't deployed to.
We were set to go October, so the next month.
Oh man, it was like no question in your mind what was going to happen
at that point. Yeah, at that point, I was like all in, and I knew, kind of figured that something it's going to change the trajectory of whatever career I ended up with in the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
and sure enough, did. I mean, October. I mean, it was a month later, October 9th. I'm at Parris Island, going through boot camp and all that. And of course, the tone changes. Drill instructors are all talking about, you're going to combat. You're going to combat. We go get through boot camp, go to school of infantry. You're going to combat.
I would imagine, just saying, okay, what I know about basic training in general, not the Marine Corps, but the Army's basic training. I understand that program pretty well. I would imagine that you approached things with a heightened sense of awareness. Is that everybody had to, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, you had that in the back of your mind. Like, I need to, I guess sometimes, it's just a check in the box. Or it's just, you could tell what they're doing is just part of the program. And I was able to pick that kind of apart. But then there were those things that I'm like, I really should get an understanding of this. Because Marine Corps boot camp, it's geared towards general Marine Corps knowledge, general fitness, the whole idea of, instant obedience to orders and all that kind of stuff. And then you go off to your MOS school. And, but there were still some elements that, were specific to what I might be doing in the infantry or whatever. So
like basic marksmanship, like, I mean, you would be thinking to yourself, I'm shooting at plastic targets here out to a distance of, I don't know, 500 meters or something, but I really better take this pretty serious.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, stuff like that, it's just kind of, a lot of it was geared towards, and it still was even after, I'm assuming they changed some things now, but towards like, big ground wars against, we still had Ivan targets. We still had, crawling under barbed wire and all this other stuff.
Well, we were, all of us were planning and preparing to fight the Russians.
Right.
I mean, that was like the way our mindset was. We were all the way through the basically 70s and 80s and into the 90s. I mean, that was our closest peer competitor, and we were preparing for force on force and the Fulda Gap and, and all this other stuff, but nobody really saw, and nor were we really prepared to fight the global war on terror, from a general purpose force perspective, if you will. But yeah, so go on. You're at basic training. You get through that, and you get through your individual training. That's what the Army calls it. Your MOS training. You know, how long was that?
It's about, I think it's 2 months for an 0311, which is just a regular rifleman.
0311.
So 0311 is a basic rifleman in the Marine Corps.
I remember that from the movie. 0311. Congratulations, you made it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we had, I mean, our whole company from SOI, School of Infantry, they were all expecting us to end up at like Lejeune, because that's typically, East Coast. You go off to the East Coast, but they sent all of us over to 29 Palms, California. This was early 2002. Google wasn't a thing, so we're thinking 29 Palms, California. That sounds nice, Yeah,
it does sound nice.
It sounds really nice, but
it's not.
It's not. We get out there. We go on bus at night, and they get us all in our rooms. I could tell it was warmer. It was in the spring, so it wasn't too bad. But wake up the next morning, I walk out and I see nothing but the hills, mountains, which we're not used to in Florida, and just desert, all that. And I just like, what do we? I didn't see any palm trees. That's the joke. It's called the stumps because there's no palm trees. But I mean, we hit the ground running. I guess we kind of figured they're sending us all out into the desert. We're coming from the East Coast, and it's where everybody in the Marine Corps went for desert training. So we're kind of like, okay, they're probably prepping us for, we figured Afghanistan at the time. Yeah. But no, I mean, we had a whole year to work up.
Do you know which unit, which Marine Corps unit you're going to at this stage?
You do at, when you get your orders after SOI. Right. So I was at 3rd Battalion, Marine Regiment. So
where are they headquartered out of at the time?
29 Palms. So
okay,
yeah, 7th Marine Regiment is out of 29 Palms, but it makes up. You also have 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, because their headquarters are in Japan because of something that happened years ago where they surrendered their colors or whatever. So they can't be headquartered out of the United States or something like that. It's some history there, but. You had them, you had first tanks, we had an AAV battalion, had everything you needed. And that's where everybody in the Marine Corps goes for combined arms exercises. So that became our weekends, was doing all these combined arms exercises. Did a lot of other cool things. And
are you staying in barracks at this point?
We got the barracks. So we'd hump out, we'd force march out there, on a Friday or something and come back on a Monday. And it was just like, every weekend just about seemed like, or we'd do some other training. But in the back of our mind, it's Afghanistan, but then Iraq started kicking up.
Right.
So we're on, we had a block of leave that Christmas. And
this is probably 2002.
This is 2002.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were block of leave for Christmas. We had a whole month, which our senior guys were like, that's weird.
Did you come back to Florida?
I actually went to Chicago to, my family was going up to Chicago to visit my family there.
Cool.
So I went up there and, surprised my mom. She didn't know I was going to be there. It was pretty cool. But, and I had to stay there through New Year's and all that. But then they called us while we were on leave and they said, when we come back, we're prepping to go to Iraq or whatever, or we're prepping to go somewhere. And it wasn't a month later we were in Iraq. So it was like January 24th we left. And we found out about it 2nd of January or something of 2003. So, and I only remember the date because it was 23rd is my birthday. So, and so we were having this big party, and then we were the only unit on 29 Palms that had the desert camouflage on. And we had a little thing going with 1st Battalion 7 Marines across the Chow Hall parking lot. So we called them out. We were supposed to fight with them a little bit, but instead the PMO showed up and they had green camis on. So we ended up with them. A bunch of people got in trouble. So, but they let everybody go because we were deploying. And I just always remember.
You can't fight? Marines were actually thrown down in the parking lot?
Because 1-7 was taught. Yeah, it was like rivalries.
Running their cake holes.
Yeah, so then it ended up being PMO that showed up, but all we saw was green camouflage. So they became targets. So that was always something I remember because
gotta love it.
Yeah, staff NCOs weren't happy because they had to come up and dump all the alcohol, but my squad leader saved me a 6-pack because it was my birthday. So I always remember.
That's cool.
Kind of the day that we ended up leaving. I mean, we got there. To Kuwait, there wasn't anything there. It was like a few tents, and then within a couple months there was just a city basically,
Right.
And then March, I guess it was 20th, 19th or whatever, we set out, and that was basically.
Are you on foot, or are you just straight? We would call it straight leg infantry. Were you motorized? How are you getting around?
So we were we had the AAVs, the amphibious assault vehicles. Okay. I think when we got there, they just drove us all out in buses, basically from the Kuwaiti airport to there.
To fall in on this equipment. Was the equipment there?
There was equipment there, but I believe they traveled with us because we had a forward unit forward group that would go to unload all the ships as they came in.
Yeah, but so at this point, you're a trained infantryman. Mm-hmm. Okay, you fall in on your unit, you're deployed, you're in Iraq, and you have some familiarity with this vehicle that this AAV, which is a wheeled vehicle. Looks like it's
tracked. It's
a tracked vehicle.
It's the tracked ones that can float, but also go on land or whatever, because we're amphibious. So, but I've never actually.
It's not like a 113 tracked vehicle from a long time ago.
But it would be like
how many Marines are in the back of this thing?
Well, it's supposed to fit like a squad, so like 15 or 20, but we got like 30 back there or something with all the ammunition and everything.
Is that big? You're supposed to put 15?
It's big enough. You got a center seat and you got some seats on the side. So but
you guys are you're inside. You're not like hanging out on the outside. It's all covered
the hatches
up.
Are closed. You got the diesel fumes. You got
right. So when this thing takes you into combat, it's a light skinned vehicle, right? Correct. If it took a 50 cal, it'd go right through it. Probably. Maybe stop.
We hang our packs on the outside. Yeah. So those tend to deflect RPGs. Okay. That's part of the armor. We call it. In fact, my one of my pouches on my my Molly pack had all my socks in it. Yeah. I got hit with an RPG, so I had no socks for the rest of the deployment. And till we got some more
things like that.
But it was like my combat boots became like slippers or something. It was actually really comfortable. So it was
right.
So it worked out. But I mean, we were wearing the mop suits. We had green mop suits, of course, because
so it's hotter in Hades. Yeah. You got these chemical warfare suits on. You're in the back of this AAV. You don't know where you are, where you're going, because you're just a crunchy.
Yeah.
Right. And then and all of a sudden, dismount. The ramp drops, and you guys get out and go do your thing.
That was probably the weirdest thing. I mean, that's where like muscle memory or your training kicks in, because you really don't know. I mean, they try to give you like an update, but it's so loud in there you can't
hear anything. All you want to do is either eat or sleep.
Yeah, you're running out the back and they're yelling contact left over the berm or contact right or whatever it is, your formation you're going to get into. And it happened. Our part of the invasion wasn't too bad. I remember thinking there was one point where we were the farthest north deployed regular unit, and we were like, oh yeah, we're cool, whatever. We're of course, for the Marine Corps or whatever, but we met up with some guys in the middle of the desert with beards and in a Humvee that was all chopped up with an M60 and we're like, who are these guys? Ended up being like special forces guys, but like, so we got a quick education on kind of how everything goes. They've been there a while, but yeah, it was weird being. I mean, like you said, I was a year and a half in or something, still really new, and you see where that instant obedience to orders from boot camp kicks in, like why they press that or push that so much is because if you actually thought about what we were about to do, jump out of the back of a vehicle that's at least it's light armored, and then go jump on a berm somewhere, and you don't know what you're getting into. Typically,
right. You didn't see it coming.
No, you couldn't see.
You couldn't see anything. You were just in the back of this thing. It might have been a 15-minute ride. It might have been a 2-hour ride. No. You're just back there. Your rucksacks are fixed to the outside of this vehicle. You're packed in there like lemmings. Some dude's eating an MRE. Some dude's sleeping.
You're holding bottles for each other to urinate in or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
this is the life.
Time.
This is the life of an infantryman.
Yes, and it was hot from the diesel engines and everything, and just. I mean, I often think now, I look back and I'm like, how do we make it through it? How did I go through that and like survive that part of it even? It was just because you had to.
Right, because you had to. So your deployment is a year.
So that deployment actually was 9 months. It was supposed to be, we get to Baghdad and we leave. Because I mean, that's the way the Marine Corps, typically in the past has always been kind of set up. And I think they're trying to get back to that now.
Right.
I mean, we're expeditionary. The Army, Air Force will come in and kind of occupy. That's usually... how it would go. So we were sitting in the middle of a desert after Baghdad. I think we got relieved by 101st or something like that in Baghdad, and we're supposed to sit there for 4 days and then start retrograding back or whatever, going back to the States.
Are you have you been in combat at this point?
Yeah,
it was. You guys are exchanging fire with the enemy, periodically,
Correct.
consistently?
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, a lot of times we definitely had skirmishes and all that. It wasn't too bad for us.
It wasn't like going into Fallujah.
No. I mean, it was.
This is the early part of the invasion.
Yes, the invasion. I mean,
02 time frame.
A lot of them ran. A lot of times you're coming up on their position, and their clothes are there, their IDs are there, their weapons are still there, and these are
Iraqis. You're fighting Saddam's. At this point, we're fighting Saddam's regular army force.
Correct. Yeah.
Forces.
I mean, there was times, in Baghdad where we'd hear their tanks rolling around, but then our tanks would typically take them out. I mean, a lot of it. I remember the Cobras and all that circling over.
And we still don't have Saddam at this point.
No,
he's in hiding. Saddam.
But I remember Baghdad being kind of interesting because you met a lot of people that had been tortured or whatever because they spoke out against Saddam and how happy they were and everything. Mm-hmm. But I also remember it then going into chaos because there was nobody in charge. And,
Uday and Qusay, his two sons, are at large. We're hunting them too.
Yeah, we didn't find them to my second deployment. They didn't find them because I remember being on a patrol and all of a sudden everybody's shooting in the city. But I guess they're shooting up in the air. That's how they celebrate.
They were happy that they were.
We found out about it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that deployment was supposed to be. I guess if we'd left then, it would have been about 3 months or so, because I mean the invasion actually it only took like a month or so.
Right.
So we're sitting there, and then they needed, I guess, 5 infantry battalions from the Marine Corps to stay back. So our battalion commander volunteered us and then left us a few weeks later. But it was supposed to be for a month. It turned out to be 5 more months. We ended up in Karbala, Mosul area, Najaf, like all in that kind of area, and it was prior to IEDs, so it was just a few times they would mortar us or something and move on, and wasn't too bad. I mean, I guess it was like, for me, it was a good way to see the country for what it was, or the people,
right?
Instead of it just being our enemy or whatever.
Let me ask you, Eddie, at this stage, what are your thoughts and feelings about? I mean, it's hard to go back. Maybe, I don't know. But what are your feelings about being a Marine at this point? You liking it? You hating it?
I'm liking it. I think I'm liking it. The biggest thing for me was always, no matter what happened, no matter what we were going through, we still found a way to laugh or something, or we still had a good time.
But you got your buddies, man.
Yeah, and I never really had that. I mean, growing up, I had friends or whatever, but
not that close.
Yeah, not that close. Not and that always kind of, I would just sit there sometimes and be like, how are we? I mean, there was this sandstorm while we were on the way up. It was so bad, your goggles that they gave you, they didn't work. But we had to stop for a day because the vehicles couldn't make it through all the sand. And then it rained that night.
Because they couldn't see?
You couldn't see. The vehicles couldn't,
just a major dust storm.
It was bad. I mean, you couldn't see anything. That night, it started raining, like the biggest raindrops I can remember in my life. So it turned everything into mud. All that dirt that you had on you was mud now. And then somebody sees movement out of the left side. You couldn't tell what it was because it was pitch black, and we couldn't use lights because we're in combat, so you don't want to be flashed. So we're trying to look through our MEGs, and a donkey walks up. So we tied chem lights to the neck of a donkey just so we know what it was. It was just walking through everything. That's
hilarious.
People were trying to run. I mean, it's just stuff like that you don't expect. You don't.
You'll never forget it, though.
No, I never forget it. I mean, camels grabbing your MEGs off your head as you're walking by a wall or something.
I can just hear the radio chatter now. Break 2-4, this is 2-6. Roger, we just put some chem lights on this donkey, just so you know that's what's walking out in front of you there. Over.
Yeah, yep, we had to warn everybody. And I mean, it's just stuff like that, I think, that stands out to me. I mean, as much as like some of the negative things. So yeah, I was definitely liking it. I was liking the structure. Is pretty easy. I mean, you just did this, and
were you an athlete in high school?
No, not really.
Really?
I think I was I was like an anti-athlete where I wasn't in the best shape, but I could run. Okay. I still got my under 18 minute 3 miles. Okay. And I just I think I was just stubborn or whatever, I did play basketball in my senior year. It was at a small school in Oklahoma when I I had gotten a little bit of trouble. I had to go out there, but it was,
that sounds like another podcast, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I mean, I think I was just one of those, I could play like whatever sports or do whatever. Yeah. I just never really
gravitated towards the team organized athletics. Okay. I was just curious, most infantrymen, they're athletic. Whether you did organized athletics or not, they're just basically, athletic. They weigh about 145 pounds, dripping wet. They could hump all day long.
Mm-hmm. And, I was determined and I was stubborn. And like, if they told me, I never was over my weight limit or whatever, but sometimes I have to get taped or something. But I was in the gym too and stuff. But I think my journey into the military and into the infantry was like so weird compared to some of the guys that I talked to. It's
different
just
pathway. Yeah, interesting.
It's a weird one.
Interesting.
But,
yeah. So let's go back to let's fast forward the tape to the moment, the combat operations where you get wounded. What happens there?
So we'd have to go. We ended up there. We got back like October of 2003. We weren't supposed to go back again, but we were back over there in February of 2004 because IEDs started happening.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to Iran.
Yeah. So IEDs started happening. We were hearing it on the news. So they sent us back 4 months later, and we ended up near Hustaba and Al Qaim area. And some people may know Jason Dunham. He was one of the guys in our company. He's in a different platoon, but good guy. I think he was the first one we lost that deployment, but he ended up getting Medal of Honor and all that. But some of us
posthumously,
yes, yeah, it was a big. That's a whole another story, but it was something that my company commander and a few of the others really worked on for years because the way it went down. But so I think after that one, that was 2004. We did a 7 month. That's what the Marine Corps was doing.
The things are heating up at this stage. We got IEDs happening. Like 05,
04, 05, 06.
04, 05, 06 are just bad times for the whole team.
Was starting.
Yeah, that's it.
So we were stuck there. They took all our tanks from us. We replaced a cavalry unit, Army cavalry unit, and we had nothing. We had no we had no up armored Humvees or anything. This was early 04. So they left us a couple Humvees, but when they were showing us around, we were riding in tanks and Bradleys. And they're like, "You guys are going to do this on foot?" We're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Man, they mess us up in tanks and Bradleys." So we were kind of worried about it. They left us a few up armored Humvees that the Air Force had left them. But we were using Kevlar blankets. If we could find them, you were getting sandbags that it was a.
You mean to add some additional protection to the vehicle? Correct.
And then you did IED sweeps where you basically rode up and down the road hoping to find them, or they'd blow up on you. It's just like it was a weird time. Somehow
psychologically, though, if you think about that, right? That, and that's part of the whole, instilling, terror, uncertainty, confusion. This idea of I'm going down the road with my platoon, I'm either on foot or I'm on a vehicle. In most cases, they want to get a vehicle, they want to get a convoy. And then, click, bang, you're in the middle of this thing and there's nobody there to turn your anger against.
No.
And that's the, the chicken shit thing about it. If you ask me, it always just really, that we were not really, who could be prepared for that? I'm saying we were not prepared for that. Who could be prepared for such a thing?
It was definitely a moment because so my third deployment is where I got injured, but I think this deployment was important leading up to that because it was where I got to the point, all that positivity that I felt like after the invasion, where people were happy to, you
felt like, hey, I'm liberating a country. The local populace is applauding me. There's good interaction. Boy, this is a good thing.
Yeah, it was,
and that changed.
Then you get there, and then all this stuff's happening. We had our civil affairs guys would give us money to go out in the community. So each squad would kind of pick a platoon, maybe would pick kind of a project for that platoon to go out there and
fix a well.
We were doing a girls' school, girls
build a girls' school.
A girls' school. Okay. We had donations from the states and everything the week before.
Hearts and Minds.
Yep, the week before. That's what build the Hearts and Minds. Week before the school was supposed to open, some insurgents went in there, killed a couple of teachers, and said if anybody comes to the school, they're done. And we're like,
that's what the Viet Cong did, in the 1960s.
And that's where we got to how can we compete with that?
Yeah, how can you?
And you're still there. You're still having the whole no better friend, no worst enemy, all that. And you're I think a switch kind of flipped there where it was like, it went from less enjoyment. I don't know. I guess I enjoyed the aspect of like helping other people, but then it became all about making sure the guys got home or whatever,
Right.
you know, and that's
Very dangerous environment.
I think everybody kind of went to that. So that led to my
survival. I mean, that's survival mode. Yeah.
And it, you know, led, you know, we had Dunham, had gotten killed, and then 3 of our guys from our squad ended up, getting hit with a rocket and during a mission we shouldn't have been on, but that's a whole nother story. But so it was like that was a really negative point.
It gets real quick at that stage.
It does. And I was on my way out. That was 04, 05. We had a whole year before we were supposed to deploy again. So my plan was,
what do you mean on your third deployment?
On my third. So, because that was only 7 months. Okay. Like we do 7-month deployments. So after that deployment, I'm still having these feelings.
What pay grade are you at this point?
At that point, I'm E3. So, and I'm a team leader.
Okay. So you got like 3 or 4 dudes that work for you.
I got 4 because we ended up splitting up our weapons platoon and turning it into like integrating it into.
You're a PFC and they gave you.
So E3 would be Lance Corporal, but it's basically
Lance Corporal. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, we had a Lance Corporal as a squad leader too. I mean, it was just whoever's the best at the job. But and at that time, picking up corporal in their first 4 years was almost, you know, unheard of. The cutting score was so high and everything because they were retaining everybody, you know.
Right.
So we get back and we have a year to work up to the next deployment. It was supposed to be Afghanistan.
So you go back to 29 Palms.
Go back to 29 Palms. We got a lot of time.
Garden spot.
And we have a year. I'm going to be getting out at the end of that year. That's the end of my 4 years. So I figured out, and they're going to Afghanistan supposedly. And at that time, Afghanistan was like vacation spot compared to Iraq. But that was also when it started ramping up a lot. And so my plan was train up my guys, get them ready to go, and then I'm out, you know. But as it got closer, I'd met my wife at the end of my last deployment. During my second deployment, we'd started talking a little more. Mm-hmm. And then so my plan was kind of get out, go to school. She was already going to University of Florida. So I thought maybe I'd go there and just kind of do that whole thing. But as it got closer, I'm like, I don't really want to they're going to Afghanistan. Not that bad. I had this feeling like, you know, like I said, everything kind of switched to keeping your guys alive type thing. Mm-hmm. So I picked up corporal a few months before I got out. I was going to get out. So I'm like, man, I'd love to go back as an NCO and, you know, lead my guys in another spot or whatever. So I went ahead and extended my contract for a year so I could do that deployment with them. It wasn't a month later. They said, we're going back to Iraq. And I'm like, oh, no.
You were wanting to go to Afghanistan or thinking you were going to go.
Yeah, that was a plan, going to Afghanistan.
So it's the third time you're going back.
Yeah, and it was going to be 7 months, nothing crazy. I think we left August of...
So you're in E5 now? I mean,
E4,
this is E4. Okay, so E4. That's right. Lance Corporal E3, Corporal E4.
Correct.
You know, hard stripe in a leadership position.
You got the cross rifles and you got, all that stuff.
Cool rank, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you got... And yeah, I mean, I think I was still a team leader at the time, but I mean, it wasn't a month into it. That's when I got hit. But, you know, we go to Ramadi. That's our third deployment. Ramadi was not good at the time. It, you know, wasn't good for a while, but we took a lot of casualties. It was more, we still had a lot of IEDs, but it was a lot more RPGs flying, a lot more mortars,
So the intensity from the first deployment in 02 to fast forward to the third deployment in 04.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Lots. So third deployment's 05, 06, end of that. 04 was the second, and then 03 was basically the first. But yeah, it's a lot. So in that time, a lot has changed. I mean, Ramadi is the capital of the Al-Anbar province, basically. It's where everything goes through, so it's pretty important. We had the government center there that we were in charge of. We had Army units all around us that were also helping. Camp Corregidor further down. And then Camp Ramadi was an Army base. So, you know, it was a lot of troops in there. And, you know, a month and a half into it, we're driving down the same road we go on, MSR, Michigan, every day. And driving in front of the other company, I think it was Lima Company's position, right at this intersection, 295. And what's the name of that, or what we called it? And but there was something in the road. I told the driver to swerve left out of, muscle memory. And instead of blowing up under us, it blew up right outside my door. And
you swerved. You what were you in?
It was a high-back Humvee. So it was like one of the Humvees that just had like the open back on it, so you could just sit troops in there, but it had like armor on the back. But it was it was like the backup medevac vehicle. I was the vehicle commander. It was just me and the driver, basically.
Okay.
So just in our training, if you have him swerve left, because if I get taken out, that's okay, because he could still drive potentially out of the danger zone. But so it just out of practice or whatever, told him to swerve left. So if it had blown up underneath us, we had no armor underneath it. So
it
would have been a bad deal. But yeah,
you swerve left and take the blast.
Pretty much. Swerve left, took the blast outside my door. And the door held up. Thankfully, it blew it off the hinges into my leg, basically, which is, I got some nerve damage in my leg now. But it caused some burns and shrapnel. Still got a little piece in my face. But it gave me a really bad TBI was the big thing.
Yeah.
Because I was so close to it. I remember I didn't lose consciousness right away. I had enough time to check on the driver. He had a big gash in his arm, and I had enough time to check on him, and then call on the radio and say, "Hey, I'm good. Poe's hurt. I think I'm going to pass out," basically. And I did. I passed out, and I woke back up to one of my guys where we had what we called kill cards, in our IFAC and our first aid kit. And so they'd pull that out, so they'd call in the Casevac. And he was leaning on my leg, which was hurting a lot at the time. So I woke up, and I'm like, "Get off my leg." I yelled at him, and that's how I came to. Took me to Camp Ramadi.
He was treating your initial treatment of your wounds?
He was trying to. Yeah, he was trying to, and I yelled at him, but Bergfalk was his name. He was just one of our boots, or one of the new guys. Yeah, so much happened. It was a blur. They gave me morphine, put us in the back with the military working dog, who apparently the handler didn't like blood, so he wasn't watching what his dog was doing, because his dog was licking our legs and stuff. It was a mess.
These are the kind of things, it's just, we can't make it up.
No, and we get in there and we put us on the bed on morphine. I re-enlisted apparently on the
while you were on morphine
on the hospital bed. They got a picture of it. Because I'd done re-enlistment paperwork, because I was thinking about doing it.
I was going to say, that's not usually how it works. You're on morphine,
no,
you're in the
they
hospital,
took a picture.
and you re-enlist for another.
Right. So I have no picture of me re-enlisting because it was on the hospital. I think they were worried that it would. But anyway, I re-enlisted then. Granted, I couldn't do the I couldn't get the incentives or whatever, re-enlistment incentives, really, because I was then non-deployable, because I couldn't do anything.
I just don't understand how the Marine Corps or any service branch would re-enlist a guy who's in the hospital recovering from his wounds when they don't know if this guy's going to actually be able to continue to serve. You got a TBI, you're it's just crazy.
It definitely it caused some issues. They asked me. I remember everybody that needed to be there was there. And I remember them asking me if I want to do it. I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." But I was literally on morphine in the hospital. And and there's a whole story about why I don't have the picture. The first sergeant wasn't happy because I wouldn't let him use it as a poster and all this other stuff. Yeah, it was a mess. But I ended up parasailing in my last 4 years. It's a non-deployable position.
Good.
Not doing drill instructor.
They took care of you.
Yeah, they got me out of there and took care of me. I made it back to the unit.
Good.
But parasailing was a whole nother story. It's a training command, so all they care about is, can you run, wear your uniforms, all that stuff. It was in the first sergeant.
It's basic training, right? And
I was a weapons field training battalion, so we were running the rappel tower, the gas chamber,
training
range.
support.
Yes, all that stuff. It didn't necessitate me to be,
still need good Marines doing that work.
Yeah, when I got there, I think I was the first one that had come any combat or anything. So it eventually filled up with a lot of other combat vets. So that became great, because then we could, that's where I realized how important it was to have the whole peer support aspect of it. But originally, I got there, my first sergeant was, he'd been on the drill field so long. He was a mail clerk, which I didn't know was a thing. So I did that when he told me that. I was like, huh. And he's like, he thought I was laughing at him. So he had me go to S4 and or 3 or whatever and pull all my stuff to make sure I rated everything and go get height and weight, all this stuff. So he didn't like me at that point. But, long story short with that, like my last 4 years, I struggled to get back to where I could run a first class PFT, and I did. I got to where I could do that again. Running was a hard thing because with the nerve damage, I can't really feel, my leg feels like it's on fire when I'm running or when I'm walking. But so in my mind, it's on fire, it's hurting, it's a lot of pain, but I had to work through that mentally to where I basically could deal with it and just understand that it's not actually hurting, it's just the nerves. And then, I got back to where I could run because the whole time I was E4. I couldn't pick up. I had the score for sergeant, but until I could run a PFT, I couldn't get it. So I did that within about 6 months of me having to get out. I ran a first class PFT, so I should have been able to get promoted, but then they put me on a med board and they medically retired me, a little while later. But, kind of rewinding to when I got hurt, I think that's when I realized how much like my girlfriend at the time, my wife, now, kind of meant to me because she was the first one I wanted to call and kind of all that. And she was like really supportive of me while I was recovering and everything. So by that point, I was like, I'll just get out of school. Her and I had gotten married eventually, and I'll just start my life. But then they got me out after my EAS date, so I had to re-enroll in school. It was like anything they could do, they just made it hard getting out. So,
well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, buddy. That's I hadn't gotten that far into your story, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure others will too here. But so the other thing I want to chat about here, switching gears on you a little bit, is your current work. I mean, you've been doing this for a while now.
12 years.
12 years. Wow. 12 years. You work at the Department of Veteran Affairs, right?
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Sure. I work in mental health clinic as a peer specialist is the title. When I was getting out of school in 2013, they had signed a bill, like kind of making it a thing, basically. So peer specialist, peer support goes back to kind of what I was talking about, that my last 4 years, and even in college, like we started a student veterans organization at the University of Tampa, and it was providing peer support. We didn't really know it as that, but that was kind of the concept behind it, was bringing in veterans with a mental health or a substance use disorder, or both, who are in recovery, have been for a little while and are showing signs of recovery, and just kind of teach them the skills to help support other veterans. So that first year was, 2 weeks of training I went to, and then you had to have like 500 hours of actual experience before you could get certified, then you could get hired. So went through that whole process. I started that down in Sarasota as part of what is it down there? Their hospital down there.
The VA.
Bay Pines.
Okay. A VA hospital.
Correct.
Okay.
And then my daughter was born, so I wanted to get closer to Tampa. They had a spot open. So 11 years ago almost, I moved out to Tampa, and I've been there ever since at the mental health clinic. I've worked in the substance use disorder service clinic. I work now in the PTSD program. So, the gist of it is a lot of times, like a new vet coming in, new to the VA, maybe new to mental health treatment, or just in general, just, they could have been out 10 years, 20 years, 2 days, but send them my way, help them with navigating the system. The VA has a lot of good programs. There's some that aren't so good. So, hey, steer clear of those. But just somebody that can sit down with them and figure out what their goals are, what they're trying to do, and then use my own experiences to maybe help them find resources or anything. I saw a vet in the parking lot the other day. He had a Purple Heart tag. So I was like, hey, man, you like to hunt and fish? And told him about this program,
Cool.
Just stuff like that where you're trying to find, for me anyway, it's like trying to find that one thing for them that'll click. Right. And, I'm to a point now in my own recovery, if you want to call it that, where I have a hard time looking back and seeing anything negative, because I like who I am now. I like where I'm at, where I'm going. So it's like, how could you think negatively about some of the stuff you've been through?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's an important topic, and in life, regardless of whether or not you've been through combat and the been wounded and the trauma that, that you've been through, and the healing and the recovery and all of that. And, this idea of finding something that clicks.
Yep.
This idea of being successful at something that you enjoy, and being surrounded by other people and having them be successful at whatever you're engaging in. So this same thing, you go back to the Marine Corps. One of the things I wanted to share or mention when you were chatting about, that I was in the hospital and I enlisted. You're like, okay, there's something going on here, right? And one of those things is, that shared commonality of experience. Mm-hmm. The dust storm with the guys, the donkey, rattling around in the back, of an AAV, humping it up a hill. There are all these things that when you share these challenging times with others in your unit, it serves as a bonding agent. And combat takes that to a whole new level. And especially when you see, your buddies, perishing and being wounded, and, then it makes it, really real. And then all of the loss that goes with that, and, the grieving and all that. I mean, all these things can either take you one way, or they can take you the other way. I had a boss once, guy by the name of Bill Steiger, who was my battalion commander, and I was his scout platoon leader. And long story short, he called for guidons, which was all commanders to come to a location. And then the scout was included in guidons, even though I wasn't commanding. I was a lieutenant. There's a lieutenant, all the captains, and then the battalion commander. But before the other commanders got there, I got there first to this dark hilltop one night. And it's just the two of us, Colonel Steiger and I, standing around. And here's a lieutenant sitting next to a two-time, combat veteran from Vietnam, the first Cav. He might as well have been God. Right. Right. Oh, yeah. And I didn't know what to say. I was just a good little, trying to be a good little scout, platoon leader. But something came out of my mouth. I just said, we were kind of just kibitzing a little bit. And I said, hey, sir, mind if I ask you a question? He's like, yeah, what's that, Scout? I said, well, because I had just come out of college, not long ago. I'd studied the Vietnam Wars. I just revered men who had been in combat in Vietnam, had seen the movies and all this stuff, and so I was like, hey, sir, how come it is that, some guys, went off to Vietnam and they came back and they were just, all screwed up. And then some guys went and had, similar experiences and, are okay. I said, I can't get my head around that. He's like, well, it breaks down like this. He says, combat makes strong men stronger and weak people weaker. And I just thought about that. And thank goodness that we've got such great support networks around these guys, because everybody gets to a turning point. You can just go one way or you can go the other. And the fact that we've got, through the Veterans Administration and all these, wonderful charities that are out there trying to help these guys, and networks like the veteran service organizations that are out there, places for these guys to go and turn to in dark moments. And I think that's what we've got, we've kind of cracked the code on that, and you're in that position still today, helping guys try to find something that clicks, right?
Correct. Yeah. For me, it was hunting and fishing. That's why.
That's why I
kind of gravitated towards this, but it really was getting back into that, maybe tapping into something from my childhood, whatever it was. And yoga, honestly, was a big thing that I was like, oh, that's stuff my wife does or something, But the first time I tried yoga, I was like, oh my God, my back doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, I tried it. I tried that hot yoga once. I couldn't take it, man.
Yeah, but it's just trying different things, finding that one thing that clicks, or a couple things that
getting engaged.
Yeah, right? Getting engaged. For me, it was really, for a lot of vets, when they get out, I think there's a period you go through where you have like this identity crisis. You're trying to figure out, who am I now? In the Marine Corps, it was easy. I was an infantryman, I was a grunt, I was this and that. I got a Purple Heart. I went to combat. All the stuff you'd want to have, to come out. But then I go into college, they don't care about that. If anything, that's a negative thing towards me. Right. So, and I realized real quick, there was a Vietnam vet that I had talked to, and he didn't tell me till about 15, 20 minutes into the conversation that he was a Vietnam vet. I was like, why didn't you lead with that? Like, to me, that's pretty cool. He's like, I've just done so much since. And I really didn't get that. Like, I didn't understand.
Isn't that great? That means it's just it's compartmentalized.
It's part of his life. Made him who he is. However, he's done so much since then that that's not what he leads with anymore. And I didn't understand at the time.
I love that. That's great, man.
Yeah. And around the same time, I heard this quote that I still quote to every vet I meet now. It's, you're not always responsible for where you are, but you're responsible where you go from here. So we don't, circumstances, life, whatever gets us to a certain point where we get to that point where we're like, I don't like where I'm at. And it could be our fault, could not be our fault. It could be just life in general, the way the world runs, whatever.
There's a choice involved there.
But there is a choice involved to where it's like from this period on where I realized there's some issues. It's up to me to kind of get myself out of that. So those two things happening around the same time,
stuff, man.
Like were, I guess, life-changing in a way to me, but also kind of opened my eyes to trying new things and stuff like that. And, I kind of got back into hunting a little bit. And then, the rest is pretty much, I guess, history. It was.
Yeah, no, you have what, when I look at individuals and look to, put them on the team. First off, you have to be selected by one of your peers. You go on a WWIA event, we serve all Purple Heart recipients, regardless of, the era that you were wounded or the service branch. You have a Purple Heart, you can get on this team. And then our guides look at you, and if you're one of these people that stands out for whatever reason, and it's not necessarily that you have this great, acumen in hunting and fishing, you're skilled, that's okay and that's great, but that's not who we're looking for the leadership that we provide, are those that we serve. But you obviously stuck out. Somebody identified you. You went on a couple of events, and the next thing you know, we're meeting each other. I think at guide school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I was just checking you out. And I was like, he's kind of quiet. He's definitely switched on. He's observing, everything, and his comments are spot on. He's engaged. I was like, there's this relative calmness about Eddie, and I like it, and that's perfect. So you got to have, in our space, you got to have what they call high EQ, emotional intelligence. And it's not just about being in command of your faculties emotionally, because that's part of it. It's really more about, how well do you interact with others? Are you somebody that can, engage well socially, individually, in small groups? And you've got that, but because you got it mostly because you care about your fellow, brothers and sisters, if you will. You're one of those people that genuinely cares. And I sense that from the moment I met you. So the work that you're doing with the foundation now dovetails into the work that you are currently doing with the VA and dovetails into the work that you did where you were wearing a uniform.
It's definitely, as soon as I realized what the foundation was and what y'all did and everything, I was like, oh man, this is, when they asked, the guy that asked if I'd be interested, I was like, man, sign me up. Cause really, I guess for me, I realized in college, that I could, I was 30, I think 29, 30. And these kids, all they cared about was like going out and partying and all that. I'm like, how could I ever have anything in common with them? But I realized we're all there for the same reason. We're trying to pass the class at least. So when it all boils down to it, we're trying to get our degree. We're trying to do something similar. So all the other stuff aside, if I could focus on what we had in common, and just keep that in my mind rather than all the other stuff that would keep me from talking to these people, then at least I could get along with them and be able to work with them towards our common goal. And I guess that getting into, working for the VA, it's the same thing. I always kind of sit back and listen to people. And, anybody can do this. Just sit back, listen to them. And there's something they're going to say that you might be able to relate to. And then you can just focus on, make that kind of like your in to talk to them. Because I believe, recovery is, anybody can recover from anything in my mind. Like it'll be hard. It'll be, a lot of work and all that. I don't sugarcoat it. However, you're not going to do it alone. You need
and
support.
you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. You've got to deal with it, right? One way or the other. Because if you just suppress it, things just have a tendency to get worse.
Yeah, and that's our natural reaction. I mean, our mind works to self-preservation. It's like a huge thing. So, we built up these walls. I always say that with the Vietnam vets. It's like they have these walls built up over so many years that you're trying to take those back down and then ask them to open up about stuff that they've been, suppressing for so many years. That's tough to do. And doing it on your own is difficult. So for me, it's if I can talk to somebody and get an in with them, relate in some way, get them to open up a bit and just listen to me talk about what's available, and you can find that one thing that might click, then, and I guess it's kind of like, you find Jesus, you want to tell everybody kind of thing, as they say, but it's the same thing with like recovery for me is just kind of, it's possible. I've seen it happen with a lot of vets. And you can always find some common ground with somebody. You just got to listen more than you talk sometimes.
Yeah. I had a boss once for sure. A boss once who talked about loyalty, as being a pile of bricks. Now you talk about a wall, right? I mean, these Vietnam veterans and modern day post 9/11 veterans, we all build walls. Why do you build a wall? Well, to protect yourself, right? And to defend against any sort of incursion. That's why we have, walls. But he would say, he talked about this pile of bricks, and the analogy was that, every day that you're, around your platoon and your men, you're and people in general, this pile of bricks, you can either build walls with it or you can build a bridge.
Yeah.
He goes, and you got to have a plan, and every day just lay a good brick, part of that. And that's what that is. But, the same thing on the topic of loyalty, it's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a value that's just way underrated for the most part. But loyalty's always been a big thing for me. But he said, in one instant, in one event, you can build a wall with that pile of bricks.
Yeah.
You're trying to build this great bridge. It might take days, weeks, months, years to build this solid, wonderful bridge between you and, your unit, between you and your friends, your family, etc. But in one disloyal moment, you can build a wall that's impenetrable. And that's the funny thing about, relationships, right? But those are really, really good points. I want to switch gears one more time on you as we wrap this thing up. And you were just on an event back up at Camp Hack. You've been to Camp Hack more than I've been to this year.
I've been pretty lucky, yeah.
Yeah. So Camp Hack is our northernmost healing center in the North Woods of Wisconsin. It's where all this, where the foundation began. And, it's 410 acres of wild, remote property. There's every fur bearer known to man, roaming the woods. It's untouched, pristine wilderness. And it's where we hold an annual bear hunt up there, which is led by Colonel Arthur Kandarian, a very dear friend of mine, runs that event for us. And you were slated as being one of the guides to help Arthur. And we had, I want to say, 3 bear tags. First, we only had 2, and then we got a third. So that covered the heroes, the Purple Heart heroes that were on that event. And then a 4th tag became available, and I was like, perfect, because now Eddie's going to get to take a bear, and the bear are just thick up there. Like this is the first time I think in the history of the organization that we tagged out 4 bears at Camp Hackett in the Northwoods. And I'd just love to hear your experience, because when I found out we got that 3rd bear, I was like, because I'm back here in the rear with the gear, but I heard through the grapevine immediately when that 3rd bear went down that I said that my first thought was Eddie's going to get a chance. So if you don't mind, share that story with us, because you got to be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, it was first time I ever bear hunt. I mean, I've hunted a lot of, deer and turkey and hog and everything, and grown up in Florida, alligator, whatever. But bears never usually on the table. And, I love it up there at Camp Hackett. So I was just happy to go up there just to be up there. One of the heroes was actually in 3-7 with me at the same time and had gotten injured.
And you didn't know that, or you did know that?
We figured it out early when I first called him.
Okay.
He looked up my name. He thought it sounded familiar.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, yeah, I was in
awesome.
Kilo Company. He was in weapons. But I remember when he got hurt, and I knew a lot of his Marines he served with and stuff. So I was already kind of looking forward to just, the campfires. Hey, did you know this guy? Kind of conversations. But so to be able to, once I was able to get a tag, and there'd be 4 total and all that. And I love the people up there anyway, Mike and Bob and all them.
Oh my God.
Jeff and everybody, they're great. And then I hadn't met Art yet, but I was looking forward to it.
Okay.
So.
Hurricane Art?
Yeah, no, he was great. I mean, I sat the first day for 12 hours in what was supposed to be the best stand. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but didn't see a bear. First bear was shot that day by one of the heroes. The next day I sat for 6 hours and didn't see one. And then that third day I sat for about 6, and then I got one. So it was a lot of sitting.
So you put the time in, man.
I did, and I forgot how hard it is, or how draining it is to sit still for 12 straight hours or for 6 straight hours. It takes a lot out of you, but I really enjoyed it. I like, that's the thing about being in the woods, is just, it's kind of grounding for me. It reminds me not everything's easy in life. You got to work at some stuff.
You got to pay your dues, man.
Yeah. You get your mind going, which could be good or bad. For me, it's usually pretty good. I just sit there and just think about stuff
the weather was nice.
Weather was great. I mean, especially changed from here. I mean, I think it was 90 when I got on the plane. Then when I got off in Mosini or up there in Wausau Airport, it was, I don't know, 60s, 50s, I think. So
there's no humidity.
No humidity. It was great.
Beautiful.
I mean, it rained on us a little bit, but it didn't even care. It was just, it was great. I mean, so it was a good time. I mean, in there, we also went goose hunting. We went muskie.
Put the schmack down on the
muskie
goose.
Casting. It was a little warm that morning, but it was a good time. I mean, it was good to catch up with the one hero from 3-7, and it was also good to meet the other guys, Dan and Conrad, and we had a good time. I think we clicked pretty much right away. It was a good group of guys. We all kind of had similar experiences, and then obviously the people up there, Jeff and them took us in, to whenever we got a bear and fed us and stuff, and just it was
crazy watching him work, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were just done pretty quick.
Yeah, what a great bunch of people up there. It's
I always so when I had the opportunity to go back again, and I got to go up for the safety symposium, and so like in 2 years I've been up there 3 times. It's been pretty lucky on that, but it's a
magical place, isn't it?
It is, and I think the people make it that way, but also just what you said, it's like kind of untouched. It's like I mean, even here in Florida, there's not a whole lot of places that are old Florida, as they used to call it, or they like to call it. But so being able to get out there, and I mean, I saw a bunch of the other guys just saw bears. I saw everything else.
Really?
I saw a porcupine. Never seen one of those.
Aren't they cool? Well,
red fox, everything.
Oh, you saw a red fox?
I saw a red fox. I didn't know what it was at first but it was really red compared to what I'm used to.
Right.
And like here, South Carolina.
Working on his winter coat, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say it's almost like it's not religious, but more like a spiritual thing for me, just being out there and
God's country.
Yeah. And I don't always, no matter where I'm at, if I get something, I get something. But I think at this point, as much as I like helping others with recovery, it's also that thing with hunting where you get to a point where you've done so much, it's like you want to share that. I mean, I got kids now too that I'm sharing my knowledge with, or trying to take them out. So one of the heroes that was on that, he didn't hunt a lot, so being able to just but he was the first one to get a bear. Like 3 hours into it, you got a bear. I'm like,
it's like, this is easy.
Yeah. So, but even that, I spent the next day for 6 hours. Maybe this is why I didn't see a bear that day, but I was on my phone looking for stuff in his area that would help him, teach him how to hunt and stuff, or get him out, because that was his question to me, was how does somebody my age get started in something like that? And I was like, I guess I just kind of went to my job. It's like, okay, let's research this and find something. But
he got a bear. He's hooked for life, probably now.
It was cool. I'd never been that close to a bear, live or otherwise. I never even seen one. First one I saw was when I shot, basically. I think I seen one, a wild one, when I was up in Ocala National Forest, and me and my brother almost hit it with our Jeep or something.
They're cool critters, aren't they?
They are. I mean, they're pretty not what I was expecting as far as like size and everything. So it was pretty cool. It was definitely a good experience.
Awesome. Well, Eddie, listen, man, I gotta say thanks for all that you've done to help all those whose lives you've touched in leadership positions and in your work with the VA, and certainly with your work with the foundation. You're an amazing man, and I appreciate all that you've done and continue to do. And spending some time with us today is just outstanding. I'd like to give you the last whack at the piñata here. If there's anything else you'd like to share with us, this would be your opportunity to do it.
I mean, I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the opportunities that, I found through Wounded Warriors and Action Foundation. It's I'm very passionate about recovery as well as hunting and fishing. I think they go together.
Yeah.
And so the mission resonates with me. And just in what I chose in work and stuff like that. But it's also, for me, it's a chance to give back, but show my family, my kids and stuff, use what God's given you, use the abilities you have and all that, maybe to help other people. And, you can get something in return. I think one of the things with work is I always approach it like, always treat every interaction as if that's the last time you'll get to talk to that individual, and make sure it's impactful in some way, hopefully in a positive way,
Right.
And
Good advice.
And I feel like it's a good way to be, because even if I'm having a bad day, I can, it can be a positive at least. You can at least feel good about. I can look back and say, hey, at least I gave that individual some information. But what I like about the guide, just being able to go out with the guys and stuff. I mean, by the end of it, when the last bear was taken down, I mean, we were ecstatic, and we were out there with Mike. He was helping us drag it and stuff, and we had the ranger out there, and we were just ecstatic. And so I get it. It's like at work, I don't always see if I have an impact sometimes.
Right.
But even if it's not what I'm doing on these events, but just in general being there, you can see like the impact that something like being out in the woods can have on somebody, or just some maybe getting their first animal, or just seeing the the love and the sacrifice of the people in the area. Like, so
right.
These guys are blown away by Mike and Bob and some of them, and Jeff and all them, Casey taking us goose hunting, I think it was John taking us fishing and all, like, just blown away that, even the people that donated the tags,
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, there's people all across this country that do that,
That's
that
right.
give of themselves. Some of them in the work, going up to, last year I had the opportunity to go to Ashtabula, Ohio, and do the
great walleye event.
Yeah, but it's one of the, from my understanding, it's one of the, they're not the richest area, but they throw a huge event every year.
Oh, yeah.
And they, and there's people all across the country that do that. And to me, that's just amazing. Like, they're serving us in a way. They may not have served in the military, a lot of them, but they're serving those that have. And,
That's right.
So if anybody listening is part of those communities, like, we appreciate that service, because it goes a long way. I mean, it has for me, and it's just a reminder to me that, not everybody. I remember going to New York for an event. My thing was I learned that all of New York isn't New York City.
Right.
There are still. It's not just a hustle bustle. It's not like.
Were you on Keith's event or?
Yes, that was the first event I ever went on.
Okay,
So I got lucky on that one. But just realize, hey, there's people like me everywhere.
That's right.
And you can relate to them. And that's a big thing I try to push is, you may not be able to relate to them any other way, but hunting and fishing, like, you can realize I don't always have to hang around vets. Like, I can connect with people in other ways. And that's what I learned in college. And it can expand your support system, and that's important. So I guess that's a big takeaway. It's open your mind a bit.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great points. But, going back to what we said a little bit ago, find something to connect with somebody about, and these great volunteers that may or may not have ever served are reaching out to us to want to connect with you and men like you. And those connections, go a long way.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of depth and meaning in that in that space. And, hunting and fishing is just, a connect. It's
kind of like a vehicle.
That's right. It's a conduit, if you will. Again, going back to, shared common interests and experiences. You're going to have those experiences and those memories, those positive memories of what happened up there. Not just what you did while you were hunting, but what others did while you were hunting and while they were hunting, and to actually make it all come together. It's really it's humbling for me to see all of it, unfold before me, and then to hear first person testimonials from you and many others. It's just like I say, it's heartwarming, and we appreciate what you did for our country while you were wearing a uniform, and now that you've taken the uniform off. Again, Eddie, thank you very much for all that you've done, and we wish you, farewell and following seas throughout the rest of your journey. And may God bless you and your family and all those whose lives you touch moving forward. Thanks for all you do, buddy.
Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the WWIA podcast. To learn more about the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation and how you can get involved, please visit our website at wwiaf.org or follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you'd like to comment or offer feedback about our podcast, or if you have a suggestion for a future episode, please email us at podcast@wwiaf.org. Thank you for your support and for helping us honor, connect, and heal our combat wounded Purple Heart heroes through the power of the great outdoors.